In this video, we're going to cover the top 5 cons to investing with Section 8, cover everything you need to know before deciding to take advantage of this investment strategy. So let's jump right in. So you might have heard different things about Section 8 and are a little unsure about whether or not it's something you should get into. There's a lot of stigma around the program and participating as a landlord, and some of it is for good reason. Honestly, a lot of property owners, investors, and landlords who participate do not properly manage their properties and do not execute on maximizing their cash flow, either because they're not aware of the strategies on how to do so, or they simply don't take the actions needed. Irrespective, when deciding to utilize Section 8 as an exit strategy as a real estate investor, there are some things you need to be aware of so that at minimum, you have the proper expectations and know how to mitigate any associated risks. So the top 5 cons to participating as a landlord with the Housing Choice Voucher program are as follows. The first con, and is really the biggest, is that when you are participating in Section 8 as a landlord, you are entering into an agreement with the government. Now, for a lot of people, the prevailing thought is that the main con to renting out to Section 8 tenants is just that, the tenants. The stigma is that the tenants will trash your property, that they're trashy people. This is actually not the case. The main con to participating in Section 8 as a landlord is dealing with the government. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with politics or your ideas about the government. It has to do with how your real life interaction with government employees will be when participating in the program. You are going to have the government in your business. You're going to have government regulations, government employees, and government nonsense. The stigma about the tenants exists in large part due to owners, investors, and landlords who don't manage their properties correctly. It's certainly true that you can get trashy tenants who will trash your place, but anyone who's been in real estate knows that this is something that can happen just fine all on its own in the private market. If you don't screen your tenants properly, you will inevitably get trashy people who trash your properties. This has nothing to do with Section 8. Just because the people on Section 8 are low income earners doesn't mean that they are trashy people. There are undoubtedly many trashy people who also participate in the program, but those people don't need to be your tenants. If you follow the strategies that we teach, you will avoid that to the extent possible, and you will land high quality tenants by providing them quality place to live that's safe, so that they and their families can get out of a bad situation. So it's not the tenants that's the issue with participating, it's the government and what comes with that. And really all of the remaining cons are the different variations of how that can come about. So the second con to participating in Section 8 as a landlord is the different rules you have to follow. And these rules primarily pertain to the different aspects of the house that go into passing inspection. When participating as a landlord, your house will get inspected annually to ensure that it meets HUD guidelines. It's also inspected before your rent can be approved and a move-in date will be set for a new tenant. And those inspections involve a detailed checklist of items, some of which you may not otherwise need to abide by in a private pay situation. A good example of this is if you have a stairway with over 3 steps, it has to have a railing. It is not that uncommon for small steps into a house to have more than 3 steps and not have a railing. It's generally not a safety concern in a lot of instances. However, HUD guidelines say that you gotta have it, so you gotta have it. Some of the rules may seem arbitrary, but irrespective of your opinion on it, the government has it in writing that you need to abide by this rule to participate. That's just what it is. So you need to know the rules like the back of your hand. Make sure your property is in a condition in accordance with those rules. And although this can be a pain sometimes, it's not that hard, but it is a frustrating thing that you'll need to be aware of before you jump in. So the third con, under the same vein as the rules and the inspections, has to do with dealing with inspectors. Now, not all government employees are bad. Some of them are actually quite good. And this is true with inspectors as well. But every once in a while, you'll get an inspector who's having a bad day, and for whatever reason, they want to take it out on you. This means you're at the mercy of the opinions of a government employee who is enforcing what can otherwise be arbitrary rules on opinion-based determinations. And if that person's not in the mood to have a favorable opinion towards you, you might fail inspections, which will cause delays in move-in dates and ultimately cost you money. So it's the government and their rules, and then the people enforcing those rules that cause the frustration. The fourth con to participating as a landlord in Section 8 has to do with the paperwork and the processes involved. So you're dealing with the government and their rules and government employees, but there's also the logistical matter of filing approvals, of registering to participate, timeframes which you must fall within when you're requesting rent increases, different types of forms and processes involved with getting set up correctly, getting your rent approved, getting your rent increased over time, and making any kind of changes. This layer, while not a huge deal, can be frustrating and is an extra step that you'll have to deal with as a landlord. The fifth con to participating in Section 8 as a landlord has to do with the bureaucracy involved with the program. Often things move slow. There will be delays that you'll run into. It can take a while for them to schedule your inspection, which can cost you money because the tenant can't move in until the property passes inspection and the rent gets approved. There can be back and forth and delays associated with getting that rent approved. There can be a waiting period before you get your first payment from the government, although they will back pay you for the time missed. But it can be frustrating having to wait, where in the private market, you otherwise would have already received your first month's rent. So dealing with the government, dealing with their rules, dealing with their people, dealing with their paperwork, and dealing with their bureaucracy are the top 5 cons that you need to be aware of before getting into this strategy. If you're not aware of these things, you're probably not going to have a good experience because they can be frustrating if you let them. So make sure you understand what you're getting into, understand how to navigate these areas so that you can maximize your success and achieve true financial freedom using Section 8 as a vehicle for building wealth. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.